and I sit down at a setup and I beat the ever living shit out of a Donkey Kong because I was like, I am not losing to Mo after losing to my. I am getting to Prof in Grands. And Prof, as soon as he saw that set, he started warming up versus Fox because he was shook. He was like, Frenzy is making it to Grands.
I guess I'll just get started with the really basic questions then, and if you could just let me know. I know you kind of briefly told me already, but when did you start playing?
So I started playing competitively it was 2014. My first event was in Nottingham. It was called ibdw. I think it was in like April or something. But I'd played casually before then, with my brother. And then I just found out about the scene through playing Brawl, like looking some stuff up online, and I saw the Smash Doc, right? And Mewtwo King and all those people. And then found my first tournament. I think I was 14. And I was the young kid that went to tournaments with his grandparents or his dad or or whatever. And then 8 years later, sort of here I am.
Nice. Well, I'm kind of curious. That kind of answers the same question as why you started playing. Was it mainly the dock?
Uh,
That got you
no,
into
it
it?
was like Melee had always been like my favorite game, or just like Smash as a whole.
Mm.
And I played Brawl like with friends or whatever. And then I've always been like a pretty competitive person.
Mm.
But Melee was like the first thing where it was like, damn, I can actually go to all these events and like at the time it was looking like LA was going to become like very esports, like MLG and like Twitch and all that stuff, right? So it just looked like, I want to be a part of this, and get to that like top echelon.
I see. I see. Okay. Cool. Um, I'm personally curious. Like you mentioned, we talked a little bit about like your switch to like from Marth and stuff to Falco, but like what made you actually like decide on switching to Falco after like trying out all those characters at the start? Do you remember?
Yeah, so it's sort of like Falco was always one of like I played Falco casually as a kid. I always played Red Falco. And
Mm.
it was like when I saw the really good people at Melee, right? I always thought like I could never be this technical. Like I can't do
Mm.
all these like fancy like, combos and movement and all that. So I was like, I'm gonna play simple characters like Marth. And back then, Marth wasn't anywhere near as advanced as he is today. And I just sort of like got to the point, I think it was about 1.5 or 2 years, where it was like I had pretty good, like movement and tech skill for my level. And I was like, I can probably handle like playing a spacey now. And so I'd always had Falco as like a for fun character, and then I was like, I'm finally just gonna try it out and see how it goes. And so I guess the rest is history, right?
It's funny. I feel like a lot of people kind of get into spaces like that because I did the same, but mine just took way longer. Like, I had to like 2 or 3 years to get to that point, but yeah, I relate.
I mean, we didn't have Slippy back then, so it
Yeah,
wasn't as easy
yeah.
to get all that practice and stuff, and Uncle
I
Punch and
lived in
all of
like Broad Windsor, and
that.
no one
Yeah.
knows what that is, and that's the point. Um, so yeah, a little thing I guess before I get into like 9-2 and stuff was correct me if I'm wrong, but you took your first set from Prof in 2017 at like
Yep.
short pair,
Yep.
I
I'm not
believe.
sure which number.
No, I think it was
I'll
six,
admit.
but from
Okay.
my extensive research so far, but
Yeah.
from what I've seen, it's I don't think I'm incorrect to say it took you 2 more years before you took actually another set from him. I'm not sure
It
if.
was quite a while, to be
Mm,
honest. Like I took that one set, and then I think something sparked in his brain where he was like, "Okay, I gotta like actually try a bit more against this guy."
yeah, yeah,
Um,
okay.
and I remember it took a while. I had a lot of like 3-1 or 3-2 sets with him.
Hmm.
And then I think the next time I actually beat him was when we were switching to NTSC. I
Oh.
think that was the next time, which is sort of ironic because um, I think the general consensus is like the Falco matchup's better in PAL. But just like my skill as a player improved such that, I just ended up I think I took my next set in NCSE. I'm not 100% sure.
I think that's pretty close to correct. I'm not sure if you beat him the next set was in Brighton, but one of the one before Nang, which is the one I think I found, was Gunnesis at NTSC.
Gunnesis, yeah, that was NCSE, yeah. Yeah, I think that was the first time.
Yeah. So that's crazy. So what you're saying, like you had a lot of close sets. Did you feel like that was like quite an interesting point, like where you were going through those 2 years, or like were you like just more focused on the other people than trying to get to there? Like, I'm kind of curious about what those 2 years were almost like. Was it just, did it feel stale at all? Like,
no, so I'd say that period was like, it was the era of like me, Prof, and Setchi, right? Like the triad or or whatever you want to sort of describe it as, where we were all like not trading sets with each other. Like Prof was obviously still better, but there was sort of this rivalry going on between me and Setchi, and we were both around that point like taking sets from Prof. Like a lot of people at the time remembered the set Origin 2, I think it was, that Setchi won, and he just 3-0'd him, and he has some crazy combo where he like down throws and then like PC drop a Pez or something random like that. But that was the first time he ever beat Prof, and it was like, first time you beat someone like that, it's usually a scrappy game 5, not just like a 3-0. But yeah, no, I wouldn't say it was stale at all. Like every event was like us three, like close sets. But yeah, that was sort of the era where like a lot of the more established players started to sort of like leave the game. So you're thinking like Alpha Dash, Deathgazer, Dev, R23, like all those people that used to be in the top, had sort of like stopped playing the game as much for whatever reason, and then it was me and Setchi coming up. Some other people around that time was like Unhaven as well. Like Mint was starting to go to a few things as well. So I wouldn't say it was stale, no. It's just sort of like a new tier of player coming up,
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, mate, that's a good like transitional period in a way. So yeah, I guess the next thing is like going into Nang, really. I'm kind of curious. It was a long time ago now, so I don't expect you to like kind of remember all that much about it. But also, I don't know if you do remember. If you do remember anything about it, because the set was quite interesting. I look back and I didn't realize that you were actually down 2 games in the
I was down 2-0 in
I'm kind of like
too.
curious, like what was going through your head and like that almost like the whole set, because you were in winners, right, and you lose set 1, and like just kind of what's going through your brain like almost through that set, really. If you remember
so
it.
I do remember in the set specifically, the turning point in that set was actually at the start of set 2. The door was opened, which was right next to us, and there was this cold draft that came in, and I'm pretty sure between games 2 and 3, the door was closed, and I played way better. Like, there's no sort of like, anime protagonist, like, I'm gonna make this comeback. It was literally just like, oh, my hands aren't cold anymore. But no, there was some stuff where I was like, I think I can still win this. Again, I'd had so many sets with Prof at that point, where, I'd been down 2-0 and then brought it back to game 5, or just like had so much experience versus him that I sort of got a sense for like the different modes he would go in and how he would like have these like different like set plays and stuff, right? And I think I just got a read on some of that by the end. And yeah, you play that many sets with somebody, like eventually you're gonna come out on top, right?
Yeah. Okay, so you weren't like, were you like, I don't know, what it was? Were you really like feeling the event of it all? I guess because a lot of people were talking about it at the time. Like a lot, I remember at the time there was a lot of talk about like, Prof has this giant streak, and is it gonna end?
Prof's not lost in, I forget how many years it was.
It was 5.
It's something like, was it 5?
Yeah,
5 or 6. Yeah. And every event, like, it felt like I was getting closer and closer to that, right?
Mm.
Like every event, it was always in the back of my mind, like this guy hasn't lost, and it always irks me every time when Prof wins and people go, "Oh, I guess he's just taking our money again." Nobody's ever gonna beat him. That's what drives me to beat this fucking guy. Like I want to shut up the people that say that, but yeah, no, I go through all of these events and like you sort of become a bit more numb to it, like as you go through all these different tournaments and have all these like close sets, right? Um, and yeah, I think it was just the culmination of that, like winning in winners. I think really helped because you get that set to sort of like fix those things that maybe go wrong in the first set of grands. But I think just like the one of the big things as well with that event I actually remember is that so Setchi wasn't at it, so I only had to prepare for Fox, which I think was a big because usually at these sorts of events I'd be prepping for like Falcon and Fox, and maybe some other characters, but because it was like I think it was really only Prof there that I was worried about at the time. So it was like all of my energy could go into this like this one or two sets, right?
Yeah.
So I think that was big, but yeah, I just really wanted to prove to everyone that we can beat this guy. you know.
That's fair. Okay, thinking about like okay, moving from that really like into COVID really is kind of what I wanted to think. I wanted to get a more introspective like I don't know, introspective isn't the right word. Insight into like what was going on with you during COVID because you went to quite a lot of netplay tournaments during COVID.
Definitely up and down.
Yeah, I mean, were you feel like you were grinding pretty hard outside of those tournaments as well? What was the process like?
Yeah, so I mean, my whole outlook on the COVID situation with Melee was just like, I'm gonna use this time so that when LAN tournaments come back, I'm gonna be ready, and I think a lot of people stepped away from the game at that point. But yeah, I was just there like, I'm gonna enter as much as I can. I'm still gonna play and practice. I'd always been like a netplay person as well. Like I was probably one of the one of the earlier people to adopt it. And yeah, I was just like, I'm gonna keep entering everything I can over this period. To keep the scene alive, right?
Yeah.
And I definitely had a lot of mixed success and failures during the netplay era. But I mean, I think that's to be expected with like the amount I entered. I think I'm probably one of the people that played the most sets, had the most tournament attendance, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I basically just treated it as if it was like playing a LAN. Like same sort of preparation went into my events.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of like so your solo practice stuff wasn't really affected. You kept grinding as hard as normal.
Pretty much, yeah. I was pretty much playing the same amount. It was just that instead of waking up at 6 a.m. to go to a tournament, you wake up at 9:59 and then log into Smash GG, right?
Yeah. Cool. Nice. All right, cool. So I guess I just need to cover really just get some like coverage on the big thing, which is Myth 2, really.
You're not covering Myth 1?
Myth 1?
Yeah.
I don't really have too much coverage on Myth 1. I don't have too much coverage on Myth 1. I have it's kind of like I'm not trying to like sit on the video for ages. It's like my lead to Myth 2 is like, oh, it's really close. You won this and Prof won this and you have good wins and Prof has good wins and like
yeah, okay.
It's like super even, anyone could take it and everyone's talking about this one being the thing. And yeah, I just kind of wanted to know how did you feel like going into the event? Not even like before you started, just like going in. Like what were you thinking about it? Were you I know I heard a little bit from you before, but
yeah, it was sort of like so I was in the lead in terms of like gunning for the number one spot leading up to it, right? And then there's a few events beforehand where I think I started to lose a few sets. And there was like Max and Kingu were also sort of coming up a lot more in that time as well. Like that was around that period. It was the first time where I was really like, if we play an event, they could beat me. So it wasn't just Prof I was worried about for that event. There was a lot of good players there. Meaty, Istar, Tino, Abe, Kingu, Max, like so many people there, right? That I can't just sit and focus on prof. So I was pretty nervous going into it, honestly. I was like, this is my shot. Um, and there's a chance that I play really bad and I get beat, right? um, and yeah, it was pretty stressful leading into it. I won't lie. And I think Prof was feeling it too because his throne's under threat, right? Under siege.
He definitely was from my talk with him.
It was, yeah. It was like I think it was one of the first times that like he's actually had to like wake up and if he doesn't play super well, he's gonna he could throw, right?
Now that I've got more info. But yeah, I have to. I hate to do it, but I have to ask about the whole actual tournament as well. I know you probably don't.
It's fine. Like I'm not sorry about it.
But yeah, I have to also. I guess I have to ask how. What was it like? Losing to Max in the semis, like how did that affect your like thought? Did you like?
Yeah.
How did that hit? I guess.
Yeah, it was. I don't know. So like the whole time in winners at that event, I was playing pretty shaky, right? My set with Luan was pretty close, like closer than it probably should have been. And then the Max set was just, I was not playing like my usual self. Definitely the pressure and like all of the, everything running on the event, right, was definitely affecting my play. And I lose that set. And again, like I was saying, I knew that I could lose to someone like Max or Kingu, but it was just the fact that it happened at the most important event, right? Like just before I get to play Prof or whatever. And so I dropped down into losers. And I walk out from over where the setup was and I go into the other room and I sit down at a setup and I beat the ever-living shit out of a Donkey Kong because I was like, I am not losing to Mo. After losing to I am getting to Prof in Grands. And Prof, as soon as he saw that set, he started warming up versus Fox because he was shook. He was like, Frenzy is making it to Grands. And then from there, I played out of my absolute mind in losers. I think all the sets from there were 3-0.
They were, yeah.
And I just played phenomenally. I felt completely in the zone. And there was just that, like, I was just in the zone from, like, I felt like I had something to prove and I was about to lose my shot, right? And I was just like, I'm not going to go down without a fight. I want to make this close. And, I'm not going to give up after I've gotten, this close where it's literally one tournament's going to decide it, right? And then so I get to Grands. I play Aaron. We both laugh about it as we sat down because he turned to me and he said, I knew I was going to meet you here, or something along those lines, right? Because he just like he knew how badly I wanted it, and I think that was the most I've ever like cared in a tournament, like run like set sort of thing ever. Like I was super in the zone, super into it. Even versus Max, I was like popping off after game wins just because I was like, I just wanted this set with Prof so bad. And yeah, I honestly don't remember too much about the sets, like versus Prof, just because it was so, like adrenaline rush and so in the moment, right?
Yeah.
But I do remember that set 1 was like really a really sloppy, scrappy game 5 from what I remember, and the whole set was just very like slobber knocker, like sort of set. It wasn't like when we're both playing well, it's usually very like calculated and everybody's hitting everything. And that set was just like us two going at it. I felt like for whatever reason. But yeah, I don't know. I felt like I played my heart out of that tournament. So that's why after it, I wasn't too hung up about it. I felt like I tried my absolute hardest. I made an amazing run through losers. And at the end of the day, like I can't just beat him by a hairline, I gotta like prove I am number one, and I don't think I was gonna do that on that day.
That's fair.
So yeah.
Damn. I mean, you said you didn't really remember much. One of my questions was like, if you remembered much of what you're thinking in between sets and tournament, but you say you don't remember too
No,
much.
like all I remembered was uh going to the fridge and getting like my fifth Red Bull or whatever to power me up and get me through it. And yeah, like I had some notes on my phone for each player, like I always do.
Hmm.
But a lot of the time, it wasn't like I was ignoring them, but it was just like I was just playing off instinct, you know. Like that's all what happens when you get in the zone.
Yeah.
Is it's just like everything's happening too quick, and you just you just play off of what feels right, you know.
Mm. Yeah, that makes sense. All right, that's really sick. You both had such cool shit to say about Myth 2, and it makes me like such like a little
Yeah,
fanboy.
it's such a nice,
I'm
such
just
a
like
good
more
tournament.
excited to make this now. I just really want to fucking. I've been like set back to making it. I'm just, oh,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, I super sick. But I guess my last little question would be to like kind of end off is
Hmm.
going into like this next. Well, we're kind of like a little bit into this ranking period already, but do you think like that other players potentially have a potential to be shaking up this ranking period? I think we know what I'm talking about, but do you feel like it's like there's a potential to shake up like this whole thing, like
This whole dynamic of being prof.
yeah, maybe
Yeah,
this whole dynamic, or maybe
absolutely.
just like make it so the number one's not necessarily like just a pure rivalry.
Yeah, I think. I feel like the number one spot is still going to be between me and Prof,
Hmm.
but it's going to be not as we've already seen like I've lost to Kingu and Prof's lost to Max, and
Hmm.
there's a lot more shakeups in these sorts of sets. I think now, and it's going to be a lot harder to get to like it's not going to be me and Prof in winners final and then grands every single week like it was in that period. I think we're going to have to fight like tooth and nail to get to that point. But I mean, I believe in Prof to pull it out, and I think I can pull it out myself. And I would love if we got another Myth 2, right?
Yeah.
Like that sort of tournament. I think that would be really sick. Hopefully I glitch that one out, but I'm sure Prof has his say on things as well.
Yeah, I mean that stuff doesn't that lineup of events doesn't happen that often. Like I don't think I
Yeah,
realized like quite how much it lined up until I was doing stuff for this video. I was like, oh
it's
shit.
crazy.
I kind of regret
Yeah,
leaving as early as I did.
yeah.
I mean, I don't really regret it because the drive home is always fucking miserable, but
Yep, yep, yep.
Hmm. No, yeah, that's honestly that's pretty much it, honestly.